and call to order the Norwood City School District Board of Education regular board meeting for Thursday, May 12th, 2022. The Norwood City School District Board of Education follows a bi-monthly meeting schedule. The first meeting of the month is called our committee meeting. At this meeting, we discuss fully our agenda for the board to be held the third Thursday of each month. As board members, we encourage you to attend, watch, and listen to our committee discussion, which results in action at the board meetings. For full disclosure, our committee meetings and board meetings are always announced, video and audio taped, as well as posted to our webpage for your view. All of our meetings are public and visitors are welcome. Mrs. Camphouse, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood.
Present.
Mrs. Cole.
Present.
Miss Ballard. Present. Mrs. Rarica.
Present.
Mr. Taylor.
Present.
Thank you. With everyone in attendance, I'd like to ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1.04 in our agenda is the adoption of tonight's agenda. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt tonight's agenda as written.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Mrs. Camphouse, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood.
Yes.
Mrs. Cole.
Yes.
Miss Ballard. Yes. Mrs. Rarica.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
All right, items 1.05, 1.06, and 1.07. This is the approval of our minutes from our regular board meeting held April 21st. Our minutes for the Finance Committee meeting held May 3rd, 2022, and the minutes for our committee meeting held May 3rd, 2022. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes as submitted.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Camphouse, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood.
Yes.
Mrs. Cole.
Yes.
Miss Ballard. Yes. Mrs. Rarica.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
With that approved, we'll move on to section 2 on our agenda, and this is presentations. 2.01 is recognizing this month's Rising Stars.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President. I am pleased to present to you tonight the Rising Stars for the month of May. Norwood High School is proud to honor senior Diana Gutierrez as May's Rising Star. As a member of the class of 2022, Diana is a high-achieving student who is currently earning all A's and has had excellent attendance. She is one of the kindest students and is a pleasure to have in class. Diana moved to Norwood during her middle school years, where she made many friends she continues to have to this day. Her favorite memories of Norwood High School are the many events she was able to attend, like pep rallies, dances, and assemblies. Diana plans to enter the field of fashion design and will attend the University of Cincinnati after graduation. Congratulations, Diana. Norwood Middle School would like to recognize 7th grader Daniel Drake as May's Rising Star. Daniel is a great student that always goes above and beyond with his work. He always has a cheerful attitude and shows exemplary behavior in everything that he does. He is always willing to help other students and wants everyone to be successful. Daniel comes to school with a smile on his face and cheerfully takes on any task that is asked of him. Daniel is definitely a student that others should look up to. Congratulations, Daniel. Sharpsburg Elementary Rising Star for the month of May is Adriana Gabriel Geronimo. Adriana radiates positivity, is polite, helpful, respectful, and is always smiling. In addition to having an exceptionally sunny personality, she is also a very hard worker. She has shined in her reading and math groups all year long. During the reading group, she is focused and ready to participate. She always completes take-home assignments and puts forth her best effort into her work every day. In the math group, she is always on task. Her smile and sunny disposition are just a few of the qualities that make her a rising star. She goes above and beyond, whether it's group work, partner work, or individual work. It has been a pleasure to teach Adriana, and the other students have surely benefited from having her as a role model. Congratulations, Adriana. Jonalyn Riggs, first grade student at Norwood View, is the star student for the month of May. Jonalyn is a very hard worker each and every day. She is a great example of staying on task and focusing on her schoolwork at all times. Because of this, she has grown tremendously with her reading this year. She has also been a leader in studying math. Jonalyn says math is her favorite subject because she keeps getting better and better at it. Jonalyn shows kindness and consideration towards her peers and wants to be sure everyone is included and feeling good about themselves. Jonalyn is a girl who leads by example. As she gets closer to becoming a second grader, she will be prepared and ready because of her persistence and determination. We are very proud of her. The Williams Avenue Elementary Specials teachers are happy to nominate Kylie Hendrickson for the Rising Star Award. In art, music, and gym classes, Kylie is known for her friendliness, positive attitude, effort, and eagerness to try new things. She is a prime example of what a PAX leader is for Williams Avenue Elementary. She is creative, helpful, kind, hardworking, and her personality makes her a wonderful part of the Wildcat 5th grade crew. She brightens the room with her smile and is always willing to help others and her teachers. Her teachers say that she is very artistic. After graduation, Kylie wants to explore a career that works with animals in the wild. Congratulations, Kylie. Congratulations to all of our rising stars. We are very proud of you. We ask that you stick around after our next presentation so that we can get photos with the board.
All right, so before we get the pictures with the board, and before we end our Rising Star presentation, I would like to recognize Allison Marshall, music teacher, as one of our staff superstars, who has been recognized by the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra as an outstanding educator. Mrs. Marshall does such a great job of creating a love of music in her students. This teacher goes above and beyond for her students. She empowers them to be the best version of themselves by being herself. So congratulations, Allison, and your family. All right, I think at this time we're going to take pictures of the children first and then Allison. We're going to do it over there by the large inn with the board members.
Tables out of the way. 1, 2, 3. Do one more. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good job. First and all of it. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
Take a picture with Allison too. Well, she's an adult. We gotta sign her in here. I'm taller, so I saw you guys lined them.
You get the middle because you're taller.
Yeah,
Right,
well,
here.
you tell us how you want. We'll do what you want. We'll frame you.
No, everybody.
Okay.
Look at everybody.
Okay.
Come on. Oh my God.
We might have to shift.
I think if you guys scooch in a bit. All right. All right. 1, 2, 3. One more. All right.
All right.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you for being a super awesome teacher.
Now, don't go anywhere, Allison and Mr. Marshall. We have another honor to present. We are announcing Allison Marshall as Norwood's Teacher of the Year for 2022. So we need more pictures. You know, in Norwood, we have an abundance of dedicated teachers, and Mrs. Marshall is one of those people. This year, our students have new instruments from the grant she applied for and received, not only for her students, but the entire district, making playing an instrument accessible to everyone who wants to play. Yes, we want you on TV, regardless of their financial situation. All of her students benefit from her positive attitude and energy. She communicates with parents, making sure everyone is aware of upcoming events in orchestra and in school. It is no wonder that Mrs. Marshall was recognized by the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra as an outstanding educator, so we're giving her the recognition she deserves within our district. Congratulations, Allison, our Norwood Teacher of the Year for 2022. Can we get one last picture of her with the board and the flowers and the balloon? One more picture, because you know we've got to put it on our website. So you'll have to go back over there.
Mary, come on. You want to get in with us?
Yeah.
All right.
Come on with the balloons.
She's so funny.
Do you need a plan?
Are you teacher of the year? Well, then you don't have balloons.
Here you go.
Perfect. You get to be in the middle.
Scoot back just a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Are we ready? 1, 2, 3. I'll do it again. Several. 1, 2, 3. There's again. Okay.
All right. Congratulations.
Speech.
Let me out of here.
You know, Mr.
Now,
President,
you
we
become
also have a
state
resolution
teacher
for
of the year,
Teacher
don't
Appreciation Month, so I think at this time it might be appropriate if we read that.
That is correct. Where is that on the agenda?
I think it's right here in this, right here in this section.
Right here in this section?
Oh, you know what, I have two.
There's
I
a
have
hard
yours.
copy on everyone's table.
Oh, yes, there's a teacher. So I would like to make a motion that we approve the resolution in recognition of teachers and staff appreciation honoring the Norwood Teacher of the Year.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I think she's a well-deserving teacher. I've seen her teach, and I think it's great.
So the only other thing that I think would be appropriate for this is that if we took turns as a board reading the whereases of the resolution. Is there any objection to that? No?
Sounds fabulous, Brandon. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. Mrs. Camphouse, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood,
Yes.
Mrs. Cole,
Yes.
Miss Ballard,
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
All right, so this is a resolution in recognition of teacher and staff appreciation and honoring the Norwood Teacher of the Year. And I'll begin and we'll just go around. So Mr. Taylor, you would be next, and then Mrs. Rarica. So whereas May 2nd through the 5th, 2022 was Teacher Appreciation Week, and May 3rd was Teacher Appreciation Day, and
Whereas education and knowledge lay the foundation for the future of our children. And
Whereas teachers play a crucial role in building a foundation for success that follows students well beyond the classroom, and
Whereas teachers fill many roles as listeners, explorers, role models, motivators, mentors, and community liaisons with students' families. And
Whereas teachers spend countless hours preparing lessons, evaluating progress, counseling, and coaching students, and continuing to perform these duties, even in unprecedented situations. And
Whereas teachers are among the most committed and dedicated public servants who go above and beyond daily.
Whereas an individual who exemplifies these characteristics is Allison Marshall, the orchestra teacher at Norwood High School and Middle School and district employee for 15 years, who is chosen to represent all the great educators in Norwood. And
whereas Allison has also been awarded the Outstanding Educator Award by the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra for her work instilling a love of music in students and inspiring the next generation of musicians. And
whereas our community recognizes Allison and appreciates all its teachers for educating and supporting the children of this community and empowering them to become the best versions of themselves. And
now, therefore, be it resolved that the Norwood Board of Education proclaims the month of May 2022 to be Teacher Appreciation Month and proclaims Allison Marshall our Norwood Teacher of the Year.
Be it finally resolved that the Norwood Board of Education strongly encourages all members of our community to join with it in personally expressing appreciation to our teachers and aides for their dedication and devotion to their work, especially during this pandemic. Congratulations. All right, the next item on our agenda is Section 3, and this is the Education Committee report, and I'd like to turn the floor over to Board Member Ms. Ballard.
thank you, Mr. President. Give me just 1 second to get that pulled up. Our first item, 3.01, is the student field trips that we discussed at last week's meeting. We have 4 listed for Norwood View, 5th grade, Sharpsburg Elementary, 5th grade, Sharpsburg Primary, 1st grade, and Norwood High School's marching band will all be taking field trips upcoming. 3.02 is the adoption of instructional resources. We were given a presentation at last week's meeting that included several new science resources and some of the high school physics books and biology books that were not present but were discussed at last week's meeting are all listed there in board docs. And finally, 3.03, it is my honor to present the graduating class list for May coming up in the next couple of weeks. So I would like to motion that we accept 3.01 through 3.03 as written.
I'll second.
Any discussion on those items?
I really loved our presentation of the books, and I'm really happy that we all got to see them and touch them and look at them, and that was really nice. Thank you, Shannon. And Chris.
I concur with Mrs. Rarica. It was a great presentation last week, and I'm really excited about the new curriculum. So I think this is a great step forward.
I especially like the part where Kelly said, we tried one, and I was like, I don't know if this isn't rigorous enough. Can we try this other one? And they tried the other one, and it was much better. So, I mean, I hope our public knows that they actually take a lot of time and thought to pick these things out. They just don't take whatever comes from the textbook people.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're right, it's been a year-long process.
Any other comments? Mrs. Camphouse, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ballard?
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
yes,
That approved, we'll move on to Section 4 in our agenda. This is personnel, and I'd like to turn the floor over to Superintendent Ronan.
Thank you, President Atwood. Under number 1, 4.01, we have non-renewals and resignations. Number 1's a non-renewal. Number 2, we are sorry that Sarah Guy, Adam Reynolds, and Stephen Schnee will be leaving us. They will be greatly missed, and we want to thank them for their service. Then, under 4.02, we are reinstating our 9-month contract educational aides that we non-renewed last month, and we bring them back so that they are assured of employment next school year. Then, item number 2, these are our, and 3, 2 and 3 are our limited contract teachers whose contracts you are renewing again this year. Number 2 are our teachers on the 2nd year, and number 3, those are teachers in their 3rd contract year. Number 4, well, there's Allison Marshall, our orchestra director, who will be doing our summer camp and our Teacher of the Year. Number 4, these items are summer school for kindergarten camp and student aides to run our summer programming. Item 5, some of our psychologists and intervention specialists need additional time to work with students during the summer. Item 6, Joe Wackett, he provided the music for our great prom that was last week, and I do have a picture to show you later in my presentation. It was a lovely event. Number 7, we have a golf varsity head coach on a supplemental contract, and number 8 are our pupil activity contracts for varsity football. And I believe that that concludes my report. Thank you.
All right, can I ask for a motion to approve the personnel recommendations?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? I will be abstaining from this vote.
Would this be a good time to talk about orchestra camp, or are you talking about that later in an update?
I'll talk about that later in an update. We are running band camp. It's just we don't have the dates and location yet.
All right, any other discussion? Mrs. Camphouse, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood,
Abstain?
Mrs. Cole,
Yes.
Miss Ballard,
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
With that approved, we'll move on to the next section on our agenda, and this would be Section 5. This is our Policy Committee report, and I'd like to turn the floor over to Vice President Cole.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we have a first reading of policy DLC-R, so this has to do with expense reimbursement. So this is essentially increasing staff reimbursement to include more economical lodging. So for example, sometimes like Airbnbs would be cheaper if they're going to be there for any amount of time, and also covers different food choices. So if they're going to stay in that Airbnb, would probably be more economical if they choose to go like to a grocery store and get a few groceries for their time there, as opposed to going to restaurants. And then we have the second reading of several policies that we have discussed. So 1 and 2 have to do with non-discrimination and the complaint procedure. 3 through 6 have to do with student conduct on district-managed transportation. 7 and 8, professional staff contracts and compensation plans. 9 through 12, educational options. 13 through 16, College Credit Plus. 17 is health education, and 18 is blended learning. And then you'll also see at the end, we have just a procedure to approve. This is a purchasing procedure, DJF-R. So this is for federal procurements. Our costs will be considered on an each basis instead of buying multiples of the same item. So like Chromebooks, for example, instead of the price being for all of the Chromebooks, it would be priced on an each basis.
Okay.
So I will motion to approve the policies and revisions of policies and regulations.
I will second. Any discussion?
Isn't it usually cheaper to do bulk buy than to buy individual computers?
I think it's
Or
just
is
how
this-
it's reported, correct?
It is just how we are going to follow the policy, the procurement policy. So instead of considering it a bulk purchase price, we're considering it on each price. So we'll still buy it the same way.
Okay.
We just have to follow the policy differently.
I just wanted to know, or if it was like for a repair, we don't have to wait to have a certain bulk
No.
for repaired replacement quantity or something like that.
No.
So, okay.
This is just because we usually don't buy things out of federal grants, but because of ESSER,
Gotcha.
we're having to.
Okay.
Yeah, so instead of saying Chromebooks at $50,000.
Yes.
It's a Chromebook at 200 times.
Exactly.
However many.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
Okay. All right, I saw that there are 2 voting boxes. Procedurally, is there any issue with combining everything into
No.
one vote?
If you're fine with it, I'm fine with it. Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? Mrs. Camp House, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ballard?
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
With that approved, we'll move on to Section 6 in our agenda. This is the Building and Grounds Committee report, and I'd like to turn the floor over to Board Member Mrs. Rarica.
We have 2 approvals. One is the Moeller football schedule at our Shea Stadium, August 26th, September 3rd, October 15th, October 21st, and then they'll have playoff games. And our second one is FC Cincinnati wants to have a camp at Shea, June 6th through June 10th, which is kind of exciting. I would like to make a motion to accept both of these.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Camp House, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ballard?
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
All right, next on our agenda tonight is the Finance Committee report, and I'd like to turn the floor over to our District Treasurer, Mrs. Camp House.
Thank you, Mr. President. Some of these I've gone over on the agenda, some of them I haven't, but I'll try to be brief. I do want to speak quickly about House Bill 126. Unfortunately, Governor DeWine did sign House Bill 126 into law in late April. Most of the changes become effective in 2023. School districts will only be able to file original complaints if the property has a current arm's length sale in which the sale price exceeds the auditor value by 10% and $500,000. A resolution must be filed first by the Board of Education before we can file the original complaint, and written notice to the property owner must be sent by the district 7 days before the board considers the resolution. Regarding counter complaints, now the county auditor does not have to notify us that a complaint has been made by the property owner. We can only find this information out by doing a public records request. Districts will no longer be allowed to appeal the Board of Revision claims to the Ohio Board of Tax Appeals. This means that districts only have the 30-day window to get documents and appraisals together to protest counter complaints while the case is still in Board of Revision. In addition, we are no longer allowed to agree with property owners in out-of-court private settlement agreements. While this bill was greatly modified due to the many districts' testimonies, this will still bring a lot of changes to the Treasurer's Office and for our legal counsel. We'll still be working through the changes, but I'll let you know how it works out. I do know our counsel is on it. On the agenda, I've already talked about the financial reports. 7.01 and 7.02 are appropriations. 7.03 is new, purchase of science materials. We saw our presentation on the new science materials last week. You've adopted the science materials tonight in item 3.02. Now I'm asking you to approve the purchase of those materials. 7.04 in the contract with Lori Gray, we talked about that last week. 05, the SWOCA contract. 06, the ESC contract. 07, the 5-year forecast. And 08, a resolution declaring transportation impractical. 7.09, natural gas agreement. This is a 3-year agreement with NG for natural gas starting December of 22 and going until December of 25. Our previous natural gas provider, Volunteer, filed bankruptcy, and the company purchasing their accounts will honor the old terms until December of 22. This new agreement will protect us from having to use Duke's variable rates, which are escalating very quickly. Duke's rate for May is 10.27, an MGC or whatever those are called, which is much higher than NG's contract at 6.75. So we will be locked into this rate for 3 years with this contract. 7.10, board professional development for Ms. Ballard and Mrs. Rarica to attend OSBA Leadership Conference. 7.11, Williams change order to refinish 8 classroom floors so that the building is complete when it's turned back over to the district. 7.12 and 7.13 both pertain to the parapet wall repair. It's a contract and notice to proceed that you're approving. 7.14, certificate of substantial completion. This is only for phase 1 of the high school. This work included restroom remodels, installation of the new floor tile, and hazardous material removal. Phase 2 is still very much active and will hopefully be completed this summer. 7.15, we talked about the Sharpsburg block plan. 7.16, public school works renewal. 7.17 is a cash transfer. We had $10,000 sitting in a PI fund from the very first offer on Allison several years ago. Now that the building is sold, I would like to move that cash to the same account the sale revenue went to, providing a cash balance for future student technology needs. And then a transfer, a very small transfer from the high school principal's account to the class of 21 to cover a shortage. 7.18, Western Nursing Services to provide nursing services per student's IEP. And 7.19, I don't see that on the agenda.
I was going to say, I don't see a
It says
7.1.
7.18, planes moving and storage.
Okay, then it looks like the nursing services is not on here, and it needs to be.
Do you want me to email each of them a copy?
I guess we can amend the agenda at this time to add 7.1. I guess we'll make it 7.19. Would that be okay with you, Mr. President?
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to include 7.19, which is the nurses' contract.
Second.
Any discussion on this? I would like to see the contract.
It's out there on the,
It's not on there under administrative either.
it's not?
No.
It was just an hour ago.
Do you want me to email it to them?
Yes, please, if you could.
I'll email you the contract.
It's just a standard nurse's contract for services for a student that is health impaired. And I
Okay,
did-
so we have a student who needs special services, and then this is just a contract to provide those services?
Provide nursing services.
Nursing services for that student?
And I did look for my normal, do we have a way out? Is there a way to end the contract?
Right.
Does it pertain to just that student? So we've looked for all the normal things that we look for before we present it to you. I just don't know what happened to it.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to approve it. We've discussed it. There's kind of like a verbal, of what this is about. Is there any discussion of any objection to this? So it looks like we're going to get this emailed to us after the fact.
And I won't
trust
sign
that
it.
Julie put together the
Right.
correct document, it just didn't get loaded properly. But
Correct. It's
these are
made-
standard things that we have approved in the past, and I don't see why we can't.
I don't see either. I mean, in all the years that we've been doing this is like the first major technology snafu
Yeah.
that we've had with this, so.
I don't know what
Oh
happened.
darn, the computer didn't work right.
I apologize.
Surprise.
No,
Right?
you're fine. I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable with this.
Yeah. And I can wait until tomorrow afternoon to sign it. If I don't hear from you, I'll go ahead and sign it tomorrow afternoon and move it on.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, so I may have some other items that I want to state here, so, because there's a lot on this financial
there
report.
is.
So going back to your, kind of like in your reporting session. So for House Bill 126, I understand the difficulties that the law makes for the school districts to file complaints. How does that pertain to, let's say, a citizen filing the same complaint but not as a Board of Education?
Citizen, it's not going to change that much. For one, we've never filed a counter complaint on a residential tax.
No, what I'm saying is, private citizens have just as much stake
Yeah.
in commercial value
Oh, I
as
see.
school
Yes.
districts.
Yes.
So what's to keep, let's say, Mrs. Rarica or Miss Ballard or myself from, paying extra special attention to that and then filing a complaint as a private citizen to kind of trigger the review.
Right. I thought you meant a complaint through the Board of Revision. And I think that's what's going to take is the citizens complaining about big business not paying their fair share, or the state of Ohio is they're going to get tired of paying more because they're going to have to pay more based on the way our formula is set up right now.
Right.
As our valuation drops, they'll have to pay more. But in a nutshell, when commercial properties file to reduce their valuation, it increases our millage rate.
For our private for the
for
residential.
and commercial, yes. So,
Yes. Yeah.
And that's happened.
So this is actually quite a big deal. And the reason why I bring this up is, for anybody who's, interested in this type of stuff, or for my fellow board members, there may be an option for us to kind of work around the legislation in order to continue to be able to hold this. So, because from what I've read, the restriction is just on boards of education filing the complaints. But I don't see anything against any of us as individuals filing the complaint through the Board of Revisions. So it's something that we just may want to look at individually. And then as we talk to other people in the community, I would imagine that if you get enough of those, they're going to turn around and look at that and say, we used to get one complaint from the Norwood City School District, and now we're getting 15, 20, 50 complaints, and because they have to treat each one separately, right? So now they have to have the same hearing 20 times instead of just once.
And complain about the commercial value, yes.
Correct.
Because nothing's changed for the commercial properties. They didn't tighten their requirements at all. It's
Right.
just on the school district.
Right.
And, I've talked about it several times. We've definitely explained our point of view to the legislators before they made this decision.
Right.
So it's discouraging.
They
Yeah.
were fired up about it at OSBA.
Well,
And have been for a while. We've been hearing about it. Will gets up there and gets all fired up about it.
So a lot of people, the counter complaint to this is that, those boards of education, they just want to keep the values high because they want taxes. Well,
Well, we need them.
but as board members who are the tax stewards for the public that we serve, we're actually protecting more of the residential people because we want to keep the millage rates low.
And our
Right.
taxes don't go up when valuation goes up unless you're on the floor.
Correct.
Your millage adjusts. So they don't even know how it works.
No.
When they made the.
Yeah. So that's my comment on House Bill 126. The other thing I want to comment on is critically important. So we are required by law to pass a 5-year forecast and assumptions twice a year. So it's critically important that we do our duty there. I know Julie gave a great presentation last week on the 5-year forecast. And then the natural gas agreement. So I don't know if many people know this or follow this, but it wasn't too long ago that we were talking and complaining about the gas rates being in the 3s, right? I believe when Amber and I first got elected to the board and we looked at one of these for the first time, and now we're talking about the variable rate being at 10.
Right, natural gas has been a problem recently, since 2017. Natural gas has been a problem. Like, even when we were redoing our house, and it was like, I think we don't want natural gas.
Right. So, being happy that we're locking in a rate in the 6s, it's double to what we were paying. Double what we were paying, 4.5 years ago.
Yeah.
So.
But we don't use as much gas as we did before because we've gotten rid of so many of the boilers, and we're locked in at a really great rate for electric.
Right.
For 5
good.
years. So.
I was going to ask that. So, do we use less gas?
5 years, that's
or
great.
is there a way to use less gas?
Yeah.
All right, and then those are all the comments that I have related to the financial items. Is there any more comments for discussion?
So we have a motion to amend the agenda on the floor.
Correct. Mrs. Camphouse, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ballard?
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
So the agenda has been amended. We had a lot of our discussion prematurely now, but I would now like to make a motion to approve the financial items 7.01 through 7.19.
I'll second.
Any further discussion on all of that? No? Mrs. Camphouse, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ballard?
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
All right, moving on. The next item in our agenda is the public hearing of the public. And so I do have one request to speak before the board. So before I asked the family to come up and speak, I need to read our public policy for participation at board meetings. And it reads as follows: to further improve the communication between the community and the board, time shall be allocated at each regular or special board meeting to hear the public and or representatives of school-related organizations. Public participation at committee meetings is limited to those invited to speak on specific issues. Each person addressing the board shall fill out a form which they have listing name, address, and an agenda or non-agenda item and hand it in, which it has been. Each speaker will have 5 minutes to address the board. No more than 15 minutes will be devoted to any one topic unless a majority of the board votes to continue the discussion. Speakers may offer objective criticism of the school operations as concerns them. However, the board will not hear any personnel complaints of school personnel or complaints against any person connected with the district. Personnel complaints, those concerns and comments about individuals should be brought to the attention of the administration and handled appropriately. This was approved in January 17th, 2019. And so now, having said that, I'd like to invite Michelle or William Wethington. I don't know who wants to come up and speak. All right. TJ, you're more than welcome to come up and speak. You have 5 minutes, sir.
How you doing, Mr. Atwood?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Do you want him to?
Do you want to sit at the table? That way you can have the microphone.
Appreciate you letting me speak. Well, this concerns both my daughters.
Okay.
Last year, we lost everything we had in the fire, which we were homeless and we lived in Beachmont Hotel. So I busted my butt and tried to get us back to Norwood because my kids are both Norwood students. You guys were bringing them back from the hotel back and forth. So I got us an apartment, which I thought was Norwood. And apparently it's not. It's right on the borderline of, I live on Cypress Way. And the apartment is on the Cincinnati side. My oldest daughter has an IEP. She's in Mr. Sigler's class. She has 1 year left to graduate. And they were told that they're going to have to go to another school district. She can't take that. Being in the fire, neither one of my kids can take that. Being in the fire, losing everything they have, and then getting back to normal, and then being moved from normal to another school district, people that don't even know. And this program, Mr. Sigler has done so much with her. I've fought to get her where she's at, and I don't want her to fall back. She went to prom and absolutely loved it. First time she's actually went into somewhere public without having to worry about first time she's able to go in public without freaking out. And to take her out of Norwood would devastate us. Because I'm a Norwood alumni, Mr. Atwood, you know that. And I'm a Norwood resident. I have been for over 20 some odd years. But please do not take my kids and deprive them of their education. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. I have no other speakers to address the board. So we'll move on to the next item in our agenda, and I'd like to thank Mr. Wethington for your words. So thank you, sir, for coming to address us. We're going to move on to the next item in our agenda, and that's the reports. So the first item is 9.01, and that's...
I would like to clarify, because it's not in our public participation policy.
Yeah.
Just to let you know that we are not able to respond to you at this time, but we'll be able to follow up through appropriate channels. Okay. So not to think that we are ignoring or disrespecting in response. It's just not included. I would honestly like to maybe discuss amending that so that we can include a statement. It actually came up at BLI this past week that policies like that should reiterate that we do not respond at the time of a presenter, just to make sure that it's clear. I don't want anybody to think at home or yourself to think that we are simply moving beyond the topic.
Should we leave a number or something?
I think we have your contact information, but Ms. Ballard is absolutely 100% correct. So it is an opportunity for an improvement on our policy on our side. So I don't want you to think that we're cold or...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we did hear your words. So they were very moving.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, 9.01, board announcements.
I have a couple.
Yep, go for it.
Tomorrow is the Williams Avenue Carnival. It's going to be held right here at the middle school parking lot. It won't take up the entire space, so we will have parking still available, and I was told that the city lots will also be available for use. It is tomorrow evening from 3:30 to 6:30. Children's Hospital will also have a booth there if you've got questions about health services or testing services or anything that you might be interested in being hooked up with and connected through Children's Hospital. They will have a booth there as well. Sharpsburg is also having their carnival next Friday, same time, at Sharpsburg campus, and that will be on the 20th. Both are in need of volunteers. So if you would like to volunteer for either carnival, either tomorrow or next week, you can reach out to the Williams Avenue PTA on Facebook, or if you happen to know one of the parents at either campus, please reach out to them and volunteer to help them out just for a couple hours, either tomorrow or next week. And I'll be there face painting, so come and say hi. So.
I think I'm manning the bouncy house, I've been told.
Yes.
No broken arms, no broken arms.
And then I guess the other announcement that we both attended the Board Leadership Institute this past weekend. A lot of their focus was on clear communication, team building, working on our 5-year plans. We had a lot of new board members in attendance, and considering the state of Ohio has over 600 board members, we had over 100 there that were new, just in attendance. And they said that they really recommended board retreats and, creating a cohesive board environment. So I know I mentioned it before, I'm going to mention it again. I really think that the board would benefit from having a board retreat and getting ourselves back on track with creating a new set of board goals and setting up how we would like to see this board moving forward.
I agree. When I went to board member 101 and they said blah, 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 board retreats, and I was like, okay, great, when's our board retreat? And I was,
Coming out of COVID, it's a good way to
of course, then it was
together.
COVID too, but.
Yeah, that is something that we did the first few years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we did the last one was the year before, so 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and then that one was virtual.
There've been a few things since then.
Yeah, so.
So it might be a good thing to reconsider. There were so many good workshops, so many great speakers.
They went really in depth with all the legislation things. I went to one about communicating when there's a crisis, and I thought of you a lot, Mary.
Thank you.
Because they talked a lot about COVID, but then they're like, but there's other things, if a gunman comes into your school and you need to communicate with your parents, or just a PR snafu,
They also focus a lot
All
on
sorts of
trauma-informed care, especially in the wake of so many things happening in school districts and COVID. Districts that have different socioeconomic backgrounds really have an impact on students' mental health in ways that we may not have been approaching before. So when we look at equity for our district, thinking what does trauma mean, we often think it's just an accident. Well, maybe it's something that child grew up with in an abusive home that triggers that child. So maybe it's mental health related trauma.
Right.
That could be emphasizing their needs and how we address those needs. So some of the workshops I attended were trauma focused on how to make sure our staff is well informed and trained on those types of things and how to recognize them in the classroom.
And it was nice meeting lots of other board members. I found out lots of other boards don't have committee meetings.
Some of them call them work sessions instead of committee meetings.
And then some don't even have a work session. They only have the one meeting per month, and then everything's a surprise to them on that one day. I'm like, what?
So we really appreciate having to.
Yes, I really appreciate how we do this, you guys. We're really good at it. From what I hear from other board members, we have it pretty good.
So maybe that's something that we could look at the June committee meeting. So 3 years ago, we did a retreat session, and it was more focused on team building and goal oriented. And that was through the Hamilton County ESC, I believe, who facilitated that.
Yep.
Maybe we could look into that, see what kind of retreat training sessions that they have available for us.
I'd be glad to follow up and then send the information to all the board members.
Okay. And we can look at, hopefully, we could look at that at the committee meeting on June 7th, I believe is when it's going to be. And then if we look at it earlier enough, maybe we can get it on the schedule sometime in July or August before the school year starts.
That would be awesome.
The other thing coming up, and it's not a big rush, but every 5 years, we're supposed to do a big policy review with OSBA. And so you're laughing.
So they come and do it with us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Last time it was,
You think it's cool.
Yeah.
Oy vey.
So last time it was myself and
Val.
Val,
Yeah.
and it was 3 nights.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. So it's not something that has to be done right now, but we should probably do it sometime in the next year. So.
And see, that could be something too, that if one of the things was planning out with your goals and how you break things down, rather than every 5 years you go here, maybe every year you go here. And you review in a rotation. I know that's what we're doing with Oaks, which I'll tell you about, but we break it down by section, and each one goes into a rotation so that we're not all, here, read this, once every few years.
Yeah.
So it's just smaller, much smaller reviews, easier to eat the elephant, so to speak.
Right. Well, that depends on how OSBA would want to schedule that and handle that as well.
True.
Are there any other announcements?
Silhouettes are tomorrow, or Saturday night, doing a fundraiser. Is that something you were going to say, Mary?
No.
Okay.
And congrats on the new Silhouettes and Sensations. They just had their auditions last week, so congrats to them.
Have they announced yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
The lists are public.
I did.
All right. Good deal. We'll move on to.
All the 8th graders are at DC.
Oh, yeah, they are. Yeah.
Yep.
And they seem to be behaving themselves. My kid sends me pictures, and she has not told me any wild stories. So.
At least that you're aware of.
Correct. I mean, she's a rule follower extraordinaire, so she would tell me, oh yeah.
All right. Superintendent's report?
Thank you, President Atwood. My report is very short. I just thought you would enjoy some beautiful pictures from the prom from a week and a half ago. Perfect timing, fireworks behind the girls getting their pictures taken. Went well. It was a lovely evening. The weather was perfect, and everyone had a great time. And it was at Coney Island this year. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Oh, and orchestra camp? Oh, is that something different?
Oh,
Orchestra camp?
Oh, there'll be orchestra camp this summer, and it's free, and kids who are just 1 year out, like if you were 6th grade and you didn't start orchestra, and now you're going into 7th grade and you're like, maybe I should, you can go to camp and catch back up. Or I saw a student in the hallway that Miss Marshall happened to catch at the same time, and she said, oh, I left orchestra because I broke my viola and I was too ashamed to tell you. And I said, well, there, now you've told her. Don't we all feel better? And I said, go to orchestra camp and catch back up. So she was in it, then she dropped out of embarrassment. And so she can go to orchestra camp, catch back up and get back in. Plus they had the big grant for all the instruments, and the camp is free because I guess she said, but how much is it? And we were like, it's free. And I think it's usually in August.
It is.
We'll move on to 9.03. This is the Great Oaks report, and I'd like to turn the floor over to Ms. Ballard.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last week, right before the BLI at Laurel Oaks on the 5th, we hosted the 4 counties awards dinner, and we were finally able, after the last couple of years, to meet up for the first time since 2018. And so we were giving out awards to all those districts from 2019, 2021, and 22, because we haven't been able to meet in person. So it was lovely. We had several of the students come and perform for us. A couple of our different special needs groups, as well as one of our music groups, all came and performed during dinner. We also have a course review. Like I said, we've been rotating this responsibility. We'll be doing that in June. I'll be responsible for biomedical sciences program. Let's see, we also have a new partnership. We have added Sinclair to our approved partners list for College Credit Plus programming that will be online available to our students. So students that are at the Oaks and also wish to pursue certain classes, they can do that through online programming through Sinclair. We announced that our treasurer is going to be retiring as of December. So the Oaks will be on a treasurer hunt sometime soon. Let's see. Our Scarlet Graduation, where pretty much all of our students are, is coming up on May 18th. This year it has moved to UC. UC sent us a brand new bag policy. So if you are a parent or a person who wishes to attend any graduations this entire season at UC, please be aware of the bag policy. They are restricting sizes of bags to basically your hand, 4.5 by 6.5. If it's a small, like clutch size purse, those are okay. You can also take a clear tote bag, 12 by 6 by 12. UC sells them conveniently at their gift shop. They cannot be tinted, so if you have a colored but slightly clear plastic bag, those will be turned away. Purses, backpacks, camera bags, fanny packs, all will be turned away at the door. You will not be able to get in. The other easy, cheap option, you are welcome to use a 1-gallon plastic storage bag, like a Ziploc bag.
I was going to ask, can you use the Ziploc?
So you can do that. So, you know, you'll go to graduation in style with your Ziploc bag and 4x6 wallet or clutch.
I'm like,
so,
is that even as big as our phones?
Basically, yeah. So, like, again, it's for any of our Scarlet grads, or if you happen to be attending any graduation at UC this year, be aware of that policy change. And many of our students that happen to be at Scarlet were scholarship recipients. So congrats to all of our grads that got scholarships. Hundreds of thousands of dollars were given out to our grads this year, and luckily a lot of Norwood students snagged those. So I'm very proud of them. And that concludes my Oaks report.
Thank you, Ms. Ballard. Question related to that. Does Xavier have a related bag
I do not
policy?
believe so. They have not shared that with us, so I do not think so.
Okay.
Thank goodness.
I asked, and we were
what I was
only
thinking
told
when
about
she was
this
saying,
one.
I was like,
Yeah.
This event is usually held at a local, very large church up in Springdale. So this is the first year this has been an issue for us.
Okay.
And UC changed that policy, I think, over a year ago, just with their weapons policy changes on campus. And now, because of the graduations and so many influx of people from all over the city coming,
Right.
they're being very strict with with bags. And this applies if you're going to games there too. So if you're going to anything on UC's campus, be mindful of that policy.
So is that changed to UC, something that's going to be?
I believe it's accepted for games. So if you're going to a stadium for
No,
any.
I'm talking about graduation, like.
For
is it,
graduation?
like, on like next year and the year after that? Don't know.
Basically, if it's screwing with people, they're probably going to keep it. But the stadiums downtown have been doing similar things with, like the Red Stadium has a very similar bag policy. UC is just trying to be mindful and protective of their venues, and I can understand that. So I just want to let people know rather than have them, taking people down there with their purses and things. Just be aware.
But Centos at this time does not have that policy, but I'll verify it. And if that were to happen, we'd immediately let our families know.
Yeah.
But I think we're fine at graduation at Centos.
Put your phone in your pocket and don't bring anything else.
It'd be nice if they would just make women's clothing with pockets. I got nothing.
All right, thank you for that report. We'll move on to 9.04. This is the Norwood Community Television Board Report. Vice President Cole.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. So the film club had its last meeting this week, and they were able to screen their film in the mini auditorium, and they were very happy with it. Of course, this is the horror film that we have been talking about for a couple of months.
I have a link if you want to watch.
Yeah, Tyler sent me a link, but he said that they're still like doing the credits and doing a few little edits to it, and then when they're finished with that, it will be posted to Facebook and YouTube for everyone to see. I have not looked at it yet, but I am going to watch it, of course.
It's hilarious.
So he said that they worked on streaming the auditorium dedication last month, which of course we had the elementary choirs do a nice performance to kick that off. There were also performances by the Silhouettes Band and Orchestra. They were involved with the 3 nights of the Much Ado About Nothing production, and he says that they are kind of taking like everything that happened that day, and they're just kind of going to make like a big reel, like streaming like different parts of it together to make just kind of like a cool little summary, I guess, of the events. And he said they're running the audio through a noise reduction plug-in to take out the wind and street noise. So it will be a better experience than the live streams were. So if you had some problems with the live streams, it looks like that is going to be corrected. And then this week they are streaming the senior solos, and then of course graduation in a couple weeks. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. 9.05 is the OSBA Legislative Liaison Report. I don't have anything. It's been pretty quiet since primaries just happened. Ms. Ballard, do you have something from your BLI?
I didn't do the legislative side. I think, Alice, you attended the legislative.
I sure did.
We
I
kind of
can get out my
divide and
notes
conquered.
if you
No, that's fine.
want
Yeah,
to.
Ms. Rarica, if you want to.
I was going to say,
On the fly here.
Yeah.
I did have one policy update from the OHSAA. They said that they have been getting questions at the state level regarding trans policies. Just with everything in the news, people have been asking those questions. There have been policies on the books since 2015. So if anybody thinks that there are changes happening or anything like that, there have been policies on record since 2015 that any student that is applying has to have been documented in treatment for over 1 year, including hormone therapy on record. And this has been established since 2015. So if anybody ever had questions about that, they can reference it through OHSAA.
Okay.
So on the legislative report, they were pretty upset about House Bill 126. And there was some sub-teacher being flexible with sub-teacher things. There was one about the 3rd grade reading guarantee to eliminate the retention provision. And some extra remedial education stuff, and then there were a lot that we just have to watch because people are just making bills that are a little I don't know what word to say that's nice about it. But they're making some bills, and several of them make bills that are similar to the other people, and they're all like just trying to make it a really hard time on us and trying to create culture wars. So you can guess what I'm talking about there. Their representatives, Mike Loychik, Jean Schmidt, we might all know her. She's making some of the bills. They want to make sure that schools aren't teaching things that we already aren't teaching. So we heard a lot about that. House Bill 298, they want to get rid of the State Board of Education. A lot of scary stuff. Listening to these legislation updates is really scary. So if everybody could pay attention to what's going on at the State House, that would be great. And tell them that you don't want them to do all these things that would make life miserable for all of us. It's crazy. I love going to them, but I come out of there and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Oh,
That's my update on Avenues for Success.
Alice, they mentioned we do have a new state superintendent, Stephen Dakin.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
That just happened. They were showing us the 3 people, but
Yesterday.
they haven't been chosen.
Yeah,
yet.
like 48 hours ago.
Yeah.
Yep. Saw that.
He'd been formerly on the state board and board chair at one time, I believe. And then I know he was superintendent in Reynoldsburg at one time, and then at a community college. I don't know the gentleman.
I don't either. I sat next to a board member who her superintendent was one of the choices.
All right, thank you. And then finally, sticking with Mrs. Rarica, the Avenues for Success report.
Okay, so, well, we heard so the clubs are sort of wrapping up, and I got to go to that screening. It's absolutely hilarious. I can't wait for everybody to see it. There's no blood, no gore. Everything is just like, the door shuts and it goes black, and somebody goes, ah! And so someone has died. And also there's a bike club where the kids learned how to put together bikes and repair them. And they went on their bike trip just yesterday, and they're doing another thing on Saturday. So all the clubs are sort of wrapping up with their final things. Oh, forgot this. So I brought the floral arrangement again. It's really cute and looks like a sundae today. And then Betty Green actually served them sundaes. They ate. So my kid came home from school and said, "I'm not hungry. I had a sundae." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." So, and then the other big thing is that this summer camp is sort of all set, right? So last time we're getting ready to have signups, which were April 25th. So in between these meetings, they've done it. So they've done it. The people have signed up. There's people on waiting lists. It's so popular. And the schedule will be finalized the week of May 16th. So that's like, what, next week?
Next week.
But they are 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, current kindergartners through 5th graders. And we all know they do a bunch of fun stuff at those summer camps.
All right.
I think that's it.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll move on to item 10 on our agenda, which is future meeting notification. So it looks like the next times we'll be getting together is going to be Tuesday, June 7th, 6 p.m. here, and then Tuesday, June 21st, 6 p.m. here. These dates are going to be pretty critical because in June, there's some really important things that we're going to be voting on for some of the stuff moving forward. So I hope we can all make those dates.
Well, I'm glad we'll be able to vote virtually again because
Yes.
I will be virtual.
Okay, so yes, please let me know if you're going to be virtual. We'll make sure that, all right.
Both or just one of those days?
Should be just the 21st.
Okay.
Okay.
Had we talked about moving July meetings also, or only the June meeting?
Only the June meetings.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and with the summer and everybody's vacation schedules and
That's why I like
stuff.
the Zoom stuff.
Yeah, so. All right, so I'll make a motion that we approve the committee meeting for June 7th and the board meeting for June 21st.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
We still have not heard anything about the mini auditorium.
Oh, I was just in there and nothing has happened.
Nothing has happened. I think it's the back ordered situation with the equipment.
Eventually, we'll be there.
Is
have
anything
more
in the
room
room
here
not
anyways.
usable right
Pardon?
now?
Yeah, I was
I
going
mean-
to say, we used to be in there without all this new stuff, so.
Yeah, can't we just use the space until the stuff comes in and they start construction? I thought it was like torn apart, so we couldn't use it.
They're
If it's not
starting
torn
next
apart-
I'll ask Randall, yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't
Okay.
think it's necessary until school's back in session, but I think it would be great when school's back in session if we could be over there.
Okay, so we're looking
Yeah.
at August? Okay.
Yeah. Or at least by September, just, it makes it so much easier for pictures and awards and trying to bring people where to stand, it's a mess, but, yeah, I don't mind for summer if we're up here, it doesn't matter.
20-minute meetings. Yeah. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Mrs. Camp House, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ballard?
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
All right. Shannon, is this your last meeting with us?
July.
July. Got it. All right. We have no items removed to be considered separately, so we'll go to section 12, and that's executive session. And it looks like we do have one item to move into executive session for. So I'd like to make a motion that we enter into executive session accordance with ORC 121.22G4, which is preparing for conducting or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation. Any discussion? Mrs. Camp House, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ballard?
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
I'm
With
messaging
that,
Steve
it's
now.
7:12, and we are in executive.
Okay.
All right, so it's 7:56. We're back into executive session. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I think it's a great idea.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, everyone.